Good morning, Mr. Slager. Good morning, Mr. Slager. Good morning, everybody. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you ready? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Chairperson, just housekeeping. Today we'll be using Eskom bundle 07, Exhibit U17.
Yes. Yes.
Marked for AZ.
Yes. Yes.
That bundle, Chairperson, has been divided into two.
Please state your full names for the record.
Zola Tsotsi.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
No.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes, I do.
Do you swear that the evidence will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing else but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you,
Mr.
Chairperson.
Slager.
Mr. Tsotsi, welcome. When you agree with me, please speak out, don't nod your head for the purposes of the record. And you will be addressing the DCJ, the chairperson of the inquiry. You have before you two bundles. There's the thicker bundle, marked Eskom bundle 07. Can you see that?
Yes.
Exhibit U17.
Yes, I do.
You can see that. Then you have, as you heard earlier, explaining to the chairperson, the thinner bundle, Eskom bundle 07.1, which is a continuation of the first one.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Tsotsi. Mr. Tsotsi, you have provided the Commission with your affidavit, and that is found on page 1 of the bigger file, U17. Go to page 1. But Chairperson, this bundle is paginated, as you had indicated yesterday. There's the black pagination and the red pagination.
Yes. Are we going to follow the red or black today? Pagination?
We can follow the red, Chairperson, still.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have asked them not to have pages duplicated.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Can you see the red numbers, Mr. Tsotsi, and the black numbers on each page at the top, left and right?
Yes, I do.
Yes. When Mr. Slager refers to a page, he will be referring to the red numbers. So you can disregard the black numbers. He won't call the zero before, for example, if you go to the beginning of your affidavit, we won't say page 001. He'll just say page 1 and on and so on and so on. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome back. You are coming to the commission for the second time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Tsotsi, are you on page 1?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Aspects of your affidavit, certain aspects will be admitted, and I wish to focus my questions on some of the aspects arising from your affidavit. So, paragraph 2 of your affidavit deals with your qualifications and your degrees.
I'm going to get him to just confirm his signature and confirm that it's his affidavit and let us ask me to admit it and mark it, exhibit, whatever.
Let me do exactly that. Mr. Tsotsi, The affidavit starts on paginated page 1, and it runs up to paginated page 28. And please concentrate on the red numbers at the top of, right-hand top of the page.
That's correct.
You see the last page there?
Yes,
You confirm that this is your signature in the middle of the page,
yes, I do.
and that the affidavit is dated 13 February 2020.
Yes,
And you confirm that this is the affidavit you have submitted to the Commission.
yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Tsotsi. So we go back to that page.
You asked me to admit it? Mr.
Oh,
Select?
yes.
Yeah.
Indeed, Chairperson. I beg your pardon.
You are asking me to admit it
Oh, yeah.
and have it marked exhibit what? Exhibit
will-
U7 or U17?
U17, oh, now we have the file which is point 1.
Well, we can change that file maybe to
17A.
17A.
Indeed,
Yeah,
Chairperson.
and then we can have, so let's say the smaller file, which is a continuation of Eskom bundle 017 or 07. The smaller file will be bundle Eskom bundle 07.A.
Alternatively, Chairperson, we can mark the bigger one A and this one, the smaller one, B.
That's another way. Okay. So the bigger bundle will be Eskom bundle 07.A, and the smaller one will be Eskom bundle 07.B.
Yes.
And Mr. Tsotsi's affidavit appearing at page 6, starting at page 6 of Eskom bundle 07.A is admitted and will be marked as exhibit U17. Do you want us to say U17 or U17-1 on his affidavit, or
U17.
point 1 will be the following ones?
U17-1, Chairperson.
Okay. It will be marked as exhibit U17.1.
17-1.
Okay.
I think they might have made an error in the smaller bundle. As opposed to 07, it should have been 17. Is that correct? Yes, I get a...
Well, no, 0 something is for the name of the bundle.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Already, Chairperson.
Yeah.
Okay, so that labeling is correct. Thank you, Chairperson. So the affidavit of Mr. Tsotsi dated 13 February 2020 has been admitted as exhibit U17.1.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Somebody should make the necessary markings on Mr. Tsotsi's bundles so that he has something that is similar to what we have.
Yeah. Thank you. Is it? Thank you, Mr. Tsotsi. May we proceed? So in paragraph, if you go back to page 1, Mr. Tsotsi, of the affidavit, yes. So paragraph 1, you set out your details with the ID number. Paragraph 2, you set out your qualifications and where you obtained them. Paragraph 3, you deal with your career. If you turn the page. And 3.3, likewise, you deal with your service on various boards as chairperson. I'll read that. I started serving on the board of my own company as executive chairman in 1983. During my stint with the Lesotho government, I was appointed chairman of Lesotho Electricity Corporation, Water and Sewerage Authority, and Lesotho Highlands Development Authority. In 2004, the Lesotho government set up the electricity regulator called Lesotho Electricity Authority, and I was invited to become its first chairman. On completion of this role, I was appointed chairman of the Eskom Holdings in 2011. Is that the Eskom in Lesotho or in South Africa, Mr. Tsotsi?
Eskom, South Africa.
Eskom, South Africa. And then you carry on to say all the chairmanship appointments in the state-owned entities were non-executive. Now, in 2011, was that your first time being appointed as a chairman of the board of Eskom?
Yes.
And how long did you stay in that position as a chairman of the board of Eskom?
I was appointed around August 2011 until the board's term completed on the 8th, I think, of December 2014, when the new board was appointed.
December 2014, when the new
That's
board
right.
was appointed.
Yes.
Did you get to be reappointed on the new board?
Yes, I did. I was reappointed.
In what capacity this time?
Once again, as chairman.
As chairman of the board.
Yes.
I'm
Non-executive?
sorry, Mr. Slager. Can I go back to when you were
Yes, Chair.
appointed for your first term? I see that you say in your affidavit that you were approached by Mr. Siyabonga Mahlangu, who was then the advisor to the minister, that is Minister Kigaba, that's right.
Correct.
And he inquired if you would be interested in serving on the board of Eskom. You responded in the affirmative, and ultimately you were appointed. You provided your CV.
Yes.
So the second term, Mr. Slager will deal with it, but I see that for the second term you applied after
Correct.
you saw an advert. The first time you did not apply, you were approached.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did you ever try to find out how it came about that they showed interest in you out of the blue?
No, I did not specifically find
Try to
out
find
from
out,
them.
yes.
But I had an understanding of where probably their mind was living at the time.
Yes. Well, it just occurred to me that later on, you know that you were told by somebody that they put you in this position, they could take you out. So I wondered whether that's connected with how you were approached. Is that something you have reflected on and you think along the same lines or not?
No, Chair, I don't connect my
First appointment?
first appointment with that statement.
Yes.
However, that statement has other
Yes.
connotations, but not in reference to my
Yes,
first
okay, no,
appointment.
that's fine. Thank
Yes.
you. Continue, Mr.
Thank
Speaker.
you, Chairperson. Yes, Mr. Tsotsi, you were dealing with your second appointment as the chairman of the board, and I wanted to know from you whether in that capacity were you an executive or non-executive chairperson?
I was non-executive.
Now, the chairperson has asked you the other questions relating to how you became appointed. As you say in your statement that you applied the second time around, following publication of an advert, did the application be followed by interviews?
In my case, no, I was not interviewed. I suppose the minister just took the decision that she did not need to interview me. I don't know, but I was not asked to be interviewed.
Could you tell the chairperson, when you say in your case, are you aware that in the case of other board members, whether or not they were interviewed?
Chair, no, I don't. I've not asked any of the board members if they were ever interviewed.
Now that's in December 2014, you say. We learned yesterday from the witness of Mr. Matuna, and you were present here as well. You confirm that you were present here as well yesterday?
Yes, I was present yesterday.
Yes. That the board went through an induction. Recall that?
Correct, yes.
But, well, we didn't get an indication of whether or not you attended that induction. So I would like you to tell the chairperson whether did you or did you not attend the induction?
Chair, I did attend the induction. I was present.
And can you recall when, in terms of date and month, did the induction take place?
The formal induction, there was an informal meeting of the new board members with the minister in her office sometime in December, shortly after the board members were appointed. Whereupon the minister indicated that she would like there to be an induction of the new board and that this would be taking place sometime in January. Because, we were at the end of pretty much of the year, and so there was very little going on and people were going on leave and holiday and so on. So the induction was then arranged for January. And if I recall, I think it was somewhere around if not the 16th of January.
Yeah.
That's January 2015.
2015, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you attended the induction, you said?
Yes, I
You were
did.
present. So that's January 2015. Does the board then have a timetable for its meetings for the year of 2015?
Yes. What normally happens, Chair, is that at the end of the previous year, I normally sit down with the company secretary and we work out dates for board meetings for the following year. And this is done in consultation with the board members to make sure that they will be available for those dates. And once that is completed, then this is published in the company roster. So the dates are fixed at the end of the previous year or the following year.
So in that case, what was the first date on which the board would have its first meeting in 2015?
The first board meeting in 2015 was scheduled for the 26th of February, 2015.
Could you tell the chairperson whether that meeting took place?
The meeting did not take place.
And what were the reasons why the meeting didn't take place?
What happened is that on the evening of the eve of the meeting, 25th.
That would be 25 February.
That's right. At about 8:30 in the evening, I received a phone call from the then president of the country, President Jacob Zuma. And the president asked if I had, well, first of all, he stated that he had been trying to get in touch with the minister, my minister at the time being Minister Lynn Brown, and he was not successful, and he tried to find the deputy minister, and he didn't find the deputy minister either. And ultimately, he found the acting DG at the time was Matsietsi Mkhulu. And he then said to me that he has asked that the meeting tomorrow not take place.
On the 26th.
On the 26th, yes. Oh. Then he said, I will be contacted by the acting DG in regards to that. But he's just giving me like and forewarning, if you like, that the meeting is not going to take place. So I simply thanked him for the call and waited for the phone call from the acting DG, who then did call. So I was told by the acting DG that the minister had asked that the meeting be postponed. And that's how the meeting got postponed.
So were you given the reasons for the postponement or for that request to postpone?
I did ask the acting DG what the reasons were for the postponement of the meeting, because I would need to give those reasons to the board members. And she then responded to say that the minister did not give her any reasons for the postponement of the meeting. So she did not have any reasons for it.
Did you ask the former president, Jacob Zuma, for the reasons why he wanted the meeting to be postponed?
No, Chair, I did not ask him.
Why not?
The reason I did not ask the former president was because, as chairman of Eskom, I really don't have any formal business with the president.
Sorry?
I don't have any formal business relationship with the president.
But wasn't that all the more reason why you should have asked him?
Well, the way I saw it, Chair, was that my fiduciary responsibility rested with the minister, and I felt that I needed to ask the minister if she does not give me any reasons.
But the minister was not available, and he didn't phone you. She didn't phone you. The president called you. Wasn't
that's-
that on its own strange that you have a plan for a board meeting? The president is not part of the board. The board is going to have a meeting to discuss its own business. Why should you get a call from the president saying the meeting of the board should not take place? This is not a meeting of the cabinet. This is a meeting of the board.
I agree with you entirely, Chair. I didn't understand the reason why I got a message from the president to this effect. And in my position, I felt that I needed to raise that issue with the minister.
Yes, but sitting there today, do you consider that you should have asked the president, Mr. President, this is a meeting of the board that has been planned. Why must it be postponed?
I do concede, Chair, that I could have asked him
Yes.
why he wanted the meeting postponed. But I clearly would still have felt that in terms of my communication to the board, I would have had to have consulted with the minister so that she can then
But
tell
of
me
course,
exactly.
even if the minister were to have called you after the president had called, after you had spoken to the president, it would have, you would have known that the real person who wants the meeting postponed was the president, not the minister. Because from what you have told me, the president was the one who was looking for the minister in order to convey the message that the meeting of the board should be postponed. So the person who knew the reasons would be the president. That's the person you should have asked.
From my perspective, Chair, at the time I was dealing with the issue, I wanted to be certain that I follow what I understood to be my fiduciary responsibility.
Sorry?
I wanted to follow what I understood to be my fiduciary responsibility with,
Yes,
with the minister.
But here is somebody who is not part of your board. You are the chairperson. And you don't deal with this person. You deal with the minister. He is calling you. He is not scheduled to be part of this meeting of the board. So it doesn't have to suit his calendar or his availability. He's calling you and saying, the board's meeting mustn't take place. But it's not his business, it's the board's business that will be discussed. So wasn't that strange in itself?
It was strange, Chairman. Let me put it to you another way. If, for instance, I had not had communication with the DG who purportedly spoke on behalf of the minister, I would have authorized, I would not have postponed the meeting, let me put it that way.
You would not have
Postponed the meeting.
if you didn't get a call from the acting DG.
Yes.
Yes. But
Because my view would be that the president doesn't have any jurisdiction in terms of that determination.
yes.
So my asking him, for me, was neither here nor there, if only to learn perhaps what reasons he had. But because I felt that he had no jurisdiction in my responsibility, if I had not heard from, as I say, the DG, I would have not cancelled the meeting.
The acting DG phoned you,
Yes.
and did she say the minister wanted you to postpone the meeting, or did she say the president wanted you to postpone the meeting?
No, she said the minister asked that the meeting should be postponed.
Yes. And you asked her for the reasons,
For the reasons for it, yes.
and she didn't give you any.
No, she didn't give me any reason, saying to me
Yes.
that she was not given any reasons by the minister herself.
Yes. Did you not consider necessary to say, well, I'll phone the minister and find out what the reasons are, because I can't just postpone the meeting of the board without reasons.
I did ask her if I can get in touch with the minister or whereabouts, where the minister's whereabouts. She said she didn't know, and she tried to call the minister herself, and she couldn't find her.
Was the minister scheduled to be part of this meeting of the 26th of February?
No.
I take it she would not normally attend meetings of the board because she's not a member of the board.
No, she was not part of the. She was not going to attend the meeting.
She would attend by invitation.
That's correct.
Yes, and on this occasion, the board had not invited her to be part of that meeting.
No, that's it. She was not invited.
So, she actually didn't have the power, did she, to instruct you to postpone the meeting of the board? What is your understanding? Did you understand that she had the power?
My understanding, Chair, is that the MOI of Eskom does authorize the minister to request board meetings to be either postponed or changed or cancelled.
But how could she have the power to postpone a meeting of the board that she is not going to be attending? And if she is going to be attending, could she have anything other than a right to request, not a right to instruct the chairperson for a postponement if she's meant to attend and it's an important issue that she must discuss with the board, but she has other commitments, then she makes a request for a postponement. But ultimately, the power to say yes or no would lie with the chairperson of the board or the board.
Well, Chair, I'm not certain in terms of whether she can only request a postponement on the basis that she was going to attend the meeting.
But she certainly is not part of the board, is that right?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
So simply on the principle that she's not part of the board, I don't think she can have power to instruct that the board should not sit, because the board, as I understand it, is a body on its own.
Yes, I don't have the capacity, Chairman, to make that analysis.
No. I understand. You know, yes. You might be able to say, look, I've never reflected on this. I'm not sure. I'm just giving you the benefit of what's going on in my mind, and you may or may not be able to comment on it. I may be right, I may be wrong, but I'm just thinking, if you are a body, unless there is some specific legal provision that allows somebody who is not part of the body to dictate what you can discuss in your own meetings, to dictate when you can have meetings or when you can't have meetings, unless you have that situation, normally it would be that body that decides when do we sit, when do we not sit, what business do we discuss, when do we discuss that business. That body plans its own programs, you know.
Yes.
And somebody outside might be able to say, at some stage, I request that you discuss this issue. And then the body can decide this is when it's convenient for us to discuss that issue. We'll discuss it on that day. But the idea that somebody from outside can instruct just seems odd to me.
I understand. I
You
understand your point
yeah.
of view, yes.
Yes. No, thank you. Mr. Slege, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Tsotsi, let's go a little bit into that. If you turn to page 10 of your affidavit.
I'm sorry. For the sake of completeness, let me make this point, Mr. Tsotsi.
Indeed.
The only reason I can think why somebody who is not a member of the board would want would have wanted the board to postpone its meeting when he or she is not part of the board and was not going to attend that meeting is that he or she might not be wanting the board to discuss certain matters on that day. It's not convenient for whatever reasons for him or her to have the board take decisions on certain issues on the day. That's the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, if the board is going to discuss matters in which that person has no interest, why would they be wanting the board to postpone its meeting? Because they have no interest in the issues that will be discussed. But if they have certain interest in some of the issues, then I can understand. That doesn't make it proper necessarily, but I can understand that, oh, they don't want the board to make a decision at this stage on that issue and that issue. That's why they want the board to postpone. Or if there is something that they are working on for the board from outside. Again, you might not be able to comment, but I'm just giving you the benefit of what's going on in my mind as I hear this evidence about people outside of the board asking or instructing, because it looks like they were not asking that the meeting be postponed of the board and not caring to even give reasons. So it looks like they didn't think the board would say, well, we can't just postpone, we want reasons. We need to be satisfied that there are valid reasons for its postponement. It looks like they expected the board to just fall in line. If they say, please postpone, the board will just postpone without questioning. Because if otherwise, they expected that the board would want to know reasons. They would have given the reasons to the president would have told you the reasons when he spoke to you, or the minister would have given the acting DG reasons to say, tell the chairperson that these are the reasons. But it looks like they didn't bother. They didn't think the board would insist on the reasons, yes. Rightly or wrongly. Okay, Mr. Select.
Thank you, Chairperson. And Mr. Tsotsi, page 10 of your affidavit. If we may consider this a little further, because there you write in paragraph 11.4 of page 10, are you there, Mr. Tsotsi?
Yes, I'm there.
You say board meetings have different categories. There are the ordinary board meetings which are scheduled throughout the year. Could this meeting of the 26th of February have been one such meeting?
Yes, it was.
The draft schedule for these meetings is circulated to board members towards the end of the preceding year for their comment. Once dates are firmed up, the final schedule is signed off by the chairman and published in the formal meeting roster of the company. None of these meetings may be cancelled because each one is designed to deal with specific aspects of the business which have to be addressed at specific times. Examples would be shareholder compact, corporate plan, integrated report, auditing of financial statements, annual general meeting, MOIPD tariff, application, etc. These meetings can, however, be postponed on the understanding that they will be rescheduled. Postponement can either be canvassed among board members for good reason or may be effected by the chairman under plausible circumstances or may be requested by the minister. Now, I see that you use the word postponement in this paragraph. You see that?
Yes.
And this is not the same concept you use when you refer to the telephone call made by the former president to you. You said the request was for you to cancel the meeting.
Yes, essentially, what I was trying to convey there was that the meeting should not take place. But obviously, I knew at the time that the only thing that will happen is a postponement, because this is one of the ordinary board meetings which has a specific purpose at that time of year and has to take place. So I knew that this meeting needed to be rescheduled.
In your first term at the board of Eskom, had Minister Gigaba ever requested or instructed that a board meeting be postponed or cancelled?
No,
He had never done that.
not at all.
Had the former president, Mr. Zuma, called you or written to you to ask or instruct that a board meeting be postponed or cancelled during your first term?
No, sir,
It didn't happen.
not at all.
So this was a new thing
Yes.
when you got this call from the former president and when you got a call from the acting TG saying the minister effectively wanted the meeting postponed or cancelled.
That's correct.
Yes, okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, Mr. Tsotsi, so you were explaining that you, by your own understanding, when this request is made to you, you knew that the meeting would have to be postponed.
Correct.
But the request to you was that the meeting should not take place.
Yes.
Do you recall what was to be discussed at this meeting of the 26th of February, or at least some of the matters?
Yes, Chair. At that time of the year, we would have just dealt with the midterm results of the company.
The what?
The midterm financial results.
Yes.
And the auditors will be preparing the financial statements for the company.
Yes.
Because the financial year was about to end at the end of, in fact, at the end of the following month, of March. So the board would have to discuss the financial results, and which will be presented by the auditors. That's one of the key aspects. The other thing was what Mr. Matuna discussed yesterday. There was a process which we had started to engage the management to look at the strategic outlook for Eskom for the next several years, and that occurred between the time of the resignation of the previous chief executive and the incoming, namely Mr. Matuna. So he then arrived with some groundwork on that exercise having been done, and he then went on to work further on that exercise, and he was going to present that to the board. So that was to happen. So those are some of the more important issues. There could have been also a discussion planned for the tariff application. I'm not sure whether that year was the year for tariff application, but there could have been, if it was, that issue would have had to have been talked about around that time, as a continuation of what was determined in the previous year.
Out of the issues that were going to be discussed at that meeting, are there any issues that you thought the President and the Minister may have a particular interest in?
And to be frank, Chairman, no, I don't think so.
Yes.
No.
As far as you are concerned, the board could have met and discussed those issues and made whatever decisions they wanted to make.
Yes.
Yeah. You could see no reason why the Minister or the President wouldn't want the board to have its own meeting and discuss those issues.
Yes, to the extent that I felt the idea of postponing the meeting was rather strange and rather sinister.
Yeah. Mr. Slay?
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, Mr. Tsotsi, you say when was the financial year end for Eskom?
The financial year end would be at the 31st of March.
31 March.
Yes.
And you do, in your explanation to the Chairperson, said one of the important issues to be discussed there in the meeting of the 26th of February were the financials.
Yes.
And indeed, your FD at the time agrees with you in that regard. If you turn to page 117 of the bundle before you. So the FD, that's Ms. Tsolofelo Molefe, who has submitted an affidavit to the Commission. Chairperson, that affidavit.
When you say FD, you mean Financial Director?
Correct, Chairperson.
Yes.
The Financial Director.
Yeah, the reader of the transcript might not know what you're talking about.
Correct, Chairperson.
Yeah.
Having met with so many Eskom officials using the initials, one is becoming accustomed to their language. The affidavit, Mr. Tsotsi, starts on page 109. Chairperson, we will have to mark it.
That's the affidavit of Ms. Tsolofelo Beatitude Leti Molefe, is that right?
That's correct, Chairperson.
Okay.
Let's,
Did you say we must go to page 117?
page 117 of that affidavit.
Yes.
Mr. Tsotsi, are you there?
Yes.
Now, paragraph 21 and 22, and I read 21 just to give context to what she says in paragraph 22. So 21 says, the Goboto forensics report highlighted that there was wrongdoing on the part of Mr. Machila in that he did not have the delegation of authority to commit the company for a contract of this size without following the company's governance process. The board then started to seek legal advice on the actions to take action against Machila, who by then had stepped down as interim CEO. And the new CEO, Mr. Tshidiso Matona, had taken office effective from 1 October 2014. As a result of this transgression by the interim CEO at the time, the auditors indicated that they would qualify their review opinion for the interim financial statements with an emphasis of meta paragraph regarding a reportable irregularity by an executive authority. then paragraph 22. What was important about these financial statements was that we were preparing to go on a deal roadshow to raise an international bond. Therefore, it was very important that the board approve the financial statements. However, what happened on the day that the board was meant to sign the financial statements, which was a few days before the results announcement, Tsotsi called me to say that he's going to cancel the meeting, as he was receiving pressure from outside to cancel the meeting. Let me pause there. Do you have any recollection of what I've just read there in paragraph 22, Mr. Tsotsi?
Yes, I do recall that there was an intent to go on a roadshow, which was typical around that time.
Yes.
And I know that the FD was very keen to make sure that we make progress on the situation regarding statements. And I did speak to her.
Please raise your voice a little bit, Mr. Tsotsi.
Yes, I was saying, Chair, that I did speak to the FD. And I think, if I remember well, I was trying to assure her that we will find time to go back and have the statements presented to the board for the board's approval. But because of this intent to cancel this meeting, this is not going to happen on the 26th. And she says here that I told her that I was receiving pressure from outside. I probably said very specifically what had actually happened. And she maybe is not putting it the way I put it to her. I think she was being, I guess, modest in putting it this way. And I understand that. But at the end of the day, what happened was that the company secretary sent out a notification to all the board members, indicating the formality of the postponement of the meeting.
Just before that, won't you tell the chairperson what words you used?
Chair, I don't mean to be disparaging in any way, but I did tell Zulu that I felt that the president sounded like he was pressuring the board to take this decision.
You say you told her that the president sounded like he was under pressure.
He was pressurizing.
Pressurizing you?
Yes.
Okay.
In other words, in a kind of oblique way.
Yes.
That's the sort of conversation I had with her.
Yeah, okay.
That's where the idea of pressure came from.
Yes, okay.
But I'm sure I told her that I finally got, the contact from the deputy DG saying that the minister had asked that the meeting be postponed.
That is from the acting DG?
From the acting DG, yes.
Yeah. So, when the acting DG spoke to you and told you that the minister had not given reasons for the request, if it was a request, that the meeting be postponed, did you say to her whether you would have the meeting postponed or you would talk to the members of the board? It would depend what their attitude is, or what did you say to her?
No, I simply told the chair that in view of my understanding of the authority that the minister had, as I said previously, then be able to ask that meetings be postponed or cancelled. I acceded to that request by her.
Where did you find it in the minister?
I think it's in the MOI of the company. I think so. I stand to be corrected.
Yes,
You say
Eskom,
you think it is in?
The memorandum of incorporation of the company.
Yes, that the minister can request that meetings be postponed.
Yes, I think that's where it is stated, Chair.
Okay. But do you recall whether it's put as a request that she has power to request, or whether she can effectively instruct that they be postponed? Or is that something you might not recall?
I don't recall precisely, but my inclination is to say it probably speaks of request. Yes.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know what the provision is. Maybe your junior could look for that in the meantime. Or if you have got it, you can take it from there.
yes, indeed, Chairperson. Mr. Tsotsi, the Commission has been provided with a copy of the Memorandum of Incorporation of Eskom. It's in the smaller bundle.
Remember to raise your voice, Mr.
It's
Sil-
page is,
Yes.
and let's see the part dealing with meetings of paragraph for present purposes. If you turn to page 972,
Yes.
if you could please. So we see the paragraph 12 deals with shareholders' meetings. Would you know offhand which paragraph will deal with the directors' meetings?
No.
Well, directors is 13 at page 980.
Well, turn to page 980. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah, I'm already at 982, chairperson of the board.
So you see paragraph 13 deals with directors.
And then page 985 deals with proceedings at meetings.
See that, Mr. Tsotsi?
985.
I was trying to look for a provision that talks about the calling of meetings and postponements, but there might not be specific provisions for postponements that would be incidental to the calling of a meeting.
Does it go to page 985? Page 985.
Yes.
See whether you can't find anything there under paragraph 13.9 dealing with proceedings at meetings of directors. Well, let me say this to you, Mr. Tsotsi. I've gone through this, and maybe you can correct me. I've gone through this, and I couldn't find a provision that empowers the minister to call for the cancellation of a meeting.
Well, I can say that clause 13.9.1 at page 985 seems to give the power to adjourn meetings to the directors. It reads, the directors may meet for the dispatch of business, adjourn, and otherwise regulate their meetings as they think fit. that seems conclusive. That seems, it includes adjourning. Now, of course, if you adjourn a meeting to another date, it means you will discuss the business that you otherwise were going to discuss today to that date. You will discuss it on that date. Now, if you like, you can say we are canceling today's meeting, but we will fix another date to meet and discuss the same business. So whether you use adjourn or cancel, if the cancellation is not on the basis that the business that was going to be discussed will never be discussed, if it's not on that basis, but on the basis that the meeting will discuss the same business on another date, then it means the same as adjourn. So, but here in clause 13.9.1, the memorandum of incorporation is clear that it gives the directors the power to meet, or the right to meet and dispatch business of their business, adjourn, and otherwise regulate their meetings. Regulate their meetings would certainly include cancel, adjourn, or whatever.
Yes.
So, unless you are able to point to something else, it seems to me that the power, that the minister had no power to instruct that a meeting of the board be cancelled or postponed, nor did the president have that power.
Yes, it's evident that it is not explicitly stated here in the MOI, Chair.
Yes. You are not in a position to say you definitely had seen a provision that gave the minister that power, but you thought there was a provision along those lines, but you might now be realizing that no, it's not there.
Yes, I've always understood that there was such a provision.
Yes.
Whether it's in the Eskom internal documents,
Yes.
That could be the case.
Yes.
But
I think,
I've always understood that
yeah.
that was a prerogative the minister had.
Yeah. Yes. I think what you should do in due course is check any other instruments
Yes.
that you think might have something, but I would have thought that the memorandum of incorporation would be the right instrument to
Yes.
to have such a provision. Okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Tsotsi, may I also refer you to page 983, paragraph 13.7 of the same Memorandum of Incorporation. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
With the heading Powers of Directors. And it reads 13.7.1, the management and control of the company shall be vested in the board, which, in addition to the powers and authorities expressly conferred upon it by this MOI and the enabling legislation, may exercise all such powers, and I emphasize all such powers, and do all such acts and things as may be exercised or done by the company and are not, in terms of this MOI, or by the enabling legislation expressly directed or required to be exercised or done by the company in general meeting or with the prior written consent of the shareholder. So that last part, and are not, in terms of this MOI or legislation, expressly directed or required to be exercised or done by the company in general meeting or with the prior written consent of the shareholder. It seems to me that if the shareholder interferes in your functions, for lack of a better word, or encroaches in your functions, it would have to be done in writing.
Yes,
You see that?
that's what it says, yes.
Otherwise, all the powers in terms of this provision to manage and control Eskom vested solely in the board. You see that?
Yes.
And that seems to suggest to me that the board would need to jealously guard against the usurpation of any of its control or powers by anybody. It has got to realize that we are in control of this entity. We have to make the decisions that have to be made, provided we act lawfully and exercising our best judgment for what is in the interests of the company. We should be left alone to run the company, the affairs of the company.
Yes.
You would have the same sentiments of what it means for the board to be in control.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Slay?
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. Well, on this occasion of the request, you didn't say anything in your affidavit about a request having been done in writing to you, prior written notice to you by the minister.
Yes.
There wasn't such.
No.
Now, this meeting that gets to be cancelled on the eve of the board having to deal with some of the important issues, as you say, one of them are your financials, because you are nearing the financial year end. How do you, and the financial director is also in your case about wanting the financials to be approved. How do you deal with that? As a chairman of the board.
Well, the right thing would be to find the earliest opportunity to do just that.
To find what?
To find the earliest opportunity, Chair.
Yes, yeah, look this side, I can't hear you. Yeah, yes.
I'm saying that the thing to do then, in that situation, is to find the next earliest opportunity to do what was meant to have been done at that particular meeting that got cancelled. Bearing in mind the requirements, the timing, of particular decisions.
If possible, Mr. Selega, I would like us to wrap up on this meeting of the 26th and move on to
Thank you.
other matters, yeah. Yes. But, Mr. Tsotsi, it appears to me that your evidence is, in effect, that you agreed to postpone the meeting without knowing what the reasons were. Is that right?
Yes.
Why did you agree to postpone the meeting when you were not given reasons why it should be postponed?
Chair, like I indicated, it was my understanding at the time that the minister did have that authority and that the minister would provide the reasons at some date, at some later date,
Yes,
just so the board can have an understanding of what was happening.
yes. Did you then approach other members of the board and relate to them? Now I must just understand. Did you understand this to be a request from the minister, or did you understand it as an instruction? For
I
the
understood it to be
postponement?
a request from the
A
minister.
request, yeah, okay,
Yes.
all right. Which the board could say yes or no to, I take it, if it was a request.
And yes, the board could have said yes or no.
Yes. And so you approached members of the board and said, I've received a call from the acting TG who says the minister requests that we postpone this meeting. I've asked for reasons. The acting TG said the minister did not provide reasons, but I suggest that we postpone the meeting. Is that the sum total of what you said to the members of the board?
Not to the same degree of detail as yes, but in essence, that's what I said.
Yes, okay. And what was their response?
Chair,
Or the majority, the response of the majority?
the majority response was yes, accept that the meeting should be postponed.
Yes, yes. Were there dissenting voices? Were there those who were not in favor?
I'm
Or you
be
can't
hard pressed to
remember?
remember if there were dissenting voices.
You can't
They would probably have responded back to the company secretary.
Yes, yes. But the message you got ultimately was that the majority were agreeable.
Yes. What I did get, Chair, was that the next time the board sat, there were some board members who expressed dissatisfaction with the fact that that meeting was postponed
Postponed at
without
the
any
last
reasons
minute.
being given. Yes.
Yes, yes. Yes, continue, Mr. Slay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Tsotsi, let me just to wind up on this aspect. Read to you further what Ms. Molefe writes in her affidavit. Turn the page, please, to page 118, paragraph 23, which reads events leading to my suspension. She says, I was suspended on the 11th of March, 2015, alongside 3 other executives. Before we were suspended, the newly appointed board had held 2 meetings. The first meeting was on the 9th of March. The board that had been deliberating on matters that I have stated above were replaced.
I'm sorry, Mr. Slay.
Yes,
I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you. Maybe I did miss this, if you dealt with it. Mr. Tsotsi,
Yes.
Ms. Molefe, if she is talking about the meeting of the 26th here, and you must tell me, maybe she's talking about another meeting. She seems to be talking about her being opposed to the postponement of the meeting and canvassing the views of other board members, the board members going along with her recommendation, and the board members sitting to approve the financials. Is that another meeting? It's not the 26th. Mr. Slay, you might be able to tell me.
Yeah, let me assist Mr. Tsotsi. That's in the preceding paragraph. The chairperson is reading the preceding paragraph.
Yes, I see that.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So that's another meeting, not the 26th.
No, it's not the 26th
Oh,
meeting.
God, 26th, that one, the majority at least agreed that it be postponed.
Yes.
It was postponed. Then at the next meeting, some members of the board expressed concern
Yes.
about the fact that it was postponed at the last minute.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, chairperson. Then back,
I interrupted you while you were dealing with something else. So.
not a problem.
Yeah.
That paragraph 23,
Yes.
the board that had been deliberating on the matters that I have stated above were replaced in and around June 2014 with the exception of Tsotsi and Mabude. The board meeting, well, I suppose June 2014, it should be an error there, an obvious error.
I'm not so sure. What's the question?
She's saying the board that had been deliberating on the matters that I have stated above were replaced in or around June 2014, with the exception of Tsotsi and Mabude. So the previous board is replaced by the new board, but she says it's in or around June 2014.
Well, that may be right. She may be talking about the board the first board that you chaired.
Yes.
She may be talking about that board. And it was then replaced. She may be meaning it was replaced, that first board, in June 2014. Or that must be wrong because the next board was appointed in December, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So she might have got the month
Yes.
wrong. Okay. No.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Mr. Tsotsi?
Yes, I think she must have gotten the dates wrong. Instead of June, it's December.
There was no gap between the new board and the old board.
No,
Was there an intervening period?
no.
Oh, okay. Then she carries on. The board meeting of the 26th of February, which was on the annual board calendar, had been cancelled. The importance of this cancellation meeting was to approve the business plan for the next cycle and recommend the funding plan and borrowing program to the shareholder for approval in terms of the PMFMA. Notice of a board meeting was sent to all board members by the company secretary via text message, SMS, on 8 March. But what I wanted to draw to your attention, and I'm not reading the balance of that, was what she conveys to have been the importance of the meeting of the 26th of February. Does that resonate with what you explained to the chairperson earlier, were the important issues to be considered in this meeting?
Correct, yes.
Now, this is an important meeting. It gets cancelled, and you said earlier, then you would look for the next available date to discuss these important issues. Did you in fact do that?
Yes, we did.
And what was the next available date?
It was the 9th of March.
How was the
Well,
date of the 9th selected?
Okay, the meeting of it was not the 9th of March. I'm trying to be corrected, Chairman. I think it
The
was the
cancelled
11th.
meeting was 26th February, was supposed to have been on the 26th of February.
Yes.
That one got cancelled.
It was the 11th, not the 9th. There were two meetings, one after the other. The one that is in fact referring to the issues that Ms. Mulif was talking about would have been the 11th of March, not the 9th. Yes.
So, was that date of the 11th fixed by yourself as chairperson, or who fixed that date?
Yes, it was. It was fixed by me because it was a request, once again, to deal with the issues that were not dealt with as a result of the postponement.
On the 26th.
Of the 26th, yes.
Yes. Was the minister asked whether it would be fine with her if the meeting that was to have set on the 26th of February set on the 11th of March?
The minister was not consulted, Chair.
Was not asked?
No.
Yes, okay. So it was just your decision, the next meeting will sit on the 11th.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Mr. Slager.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Tsotsi, you mentioned the meeting of the 9th. Whether it was a mistake in relation to a response to my question or not, but let me ask you about that. Ask you a question in relation to that. Was there a meeting on the 9th of March, 2015?
Yes, there was.
How did that meeting come about?
Okay. Chair, that meeting came about as a result of my visit to the residence of President Zuma on the, I think the 8th, 7th or the 8th.
Well, I guess let's go back. You tell me about that meeting at, or your visit to Mr. Zuma's residence so that we can follow the sequence properly. Is that fine, Mr. Slager?
That's absolutely perfect.
Maybe let's go back to his affidavit.
Yes.
Is that right? Let's see. In paragraph, page 3 of your affidavit, paragraph 5, you deal with the relationship with the ministers. You do say that you seem to have had a good relationship with Minister Kigaba, is that right?
Correct, Chair.
Yes, and you had scheduled meetings with him, regular meetings.
Yes.
Yes, and then I seem to remember that you say somewhere that you struggled to have a same arrangement with Minister Brown to have regular meetings, to schedule regular meetings. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, Chair.
Yes, you tried, but you did not succeed to have that arrangement with her.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. And then you talk about your relationship with the Guptas in paragraph 6 of your affidavit. If it's fine with them, with Mr. Slager, can you tell me about that relationship?
With Minister?
Yeah, with the Guptas. Or does that precede the meeting, or does it come after the meeting at Mr. Zuma's residence that I want you to tell me about?
No,
Mr.
the
Slager,
issues that I
if you want
raised,
to intervene, you please feel free. Yeah, okay, all right.
the issues that I'm raising, Chair, in relation to my relationship with the Guptas
Yeah,
are varied in that I simply point out where I've met them, where the interactions took place, and so on.
yes. Do you want to quickly deal with that?
Yes, I can certainly do that.
Do that.
My first encounter with the Guptas, I seem to recall, was at the ANC January 8th statement, which took place, in Nelspruit. I seem to recall it was 2014. Maybe I stand to be corrected. I'm not sure 100% that it was 2014, but
Yes.
in any case, at that function, I happened to be seated. I was requested to sit at a table where the ANC's top 6 were seated together with 2 of the Gupta brothers, myself and the chairperson of the SABC, because we had provided some sponsorship to, or some support to the
meeting,
to that function.
yes.
And that's the first time I got introduced to 2 of the Gupta brothers, 2 of the older brothers.
Okay, let's just get that clear. This was the ANC January 8 rally.
It was a dinner.
It was a dinner
Yes, a fundraising.
which preceded
Yes.
the January 8 rally.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So the top 6 of the ANC were sitting at the main table, I guess,
Yes.
and you were invited to go and sit with them.
Yes.
And you say there were 2 Gupta brothers who were also sitting at the main table with the top 6.
Correct.
Do you remember which ones those are, those 2 Gupta brothers, or do you not remember?
Yes, I do. It was Ajay Gupta and Atul Gupta.
Atul, yeah. Now, apart from the top 6, yourself and the 2 Gupta brothers, who else was sitting at the main table, if you are able to remember?
It was just us. There were 10 seats and there were 10 people.
So the main table consisted of the top 6 of the ANC, then 2 Gupta brothers, and then yourself.
And the chairperson of the SABC.
And the chairperson of the SABC.
Yeah.
Who was the chairperson of the SABC at the time?
It was Ms. Shabalala.
Ms. Shabalala.
Yes.
Do you know whether the SABC was also sponsoring the event? Or do you
I
not know?
think so, Chair, because she spoke briefly. She had some brief
Yes.
words during that function.
Yes, yes. Now, okay, so you took your seat in the main table, and then and what happened? Continue.
Well, we were introduced to one another because everybody had a name tag. So whoever you did not know, you introduced yourself to that person. So that represented the first time that I had a face-to-face encounter with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to divert a bit, but maybe you can answer this after the tea break. I know that it happens regularly, frequently, that state-owned entities sponsor events of the ANC. I want to know why it is proper for a state-owned entity to sponsor a political party's event. So now that you have said that Eskom was sponsoring or was one of the sponsors of that dinner, I want to know why it is proper that that should happen. But we'll take the break. You can tell me when we come back. Let's take the tea break. It's 11:15. We'll resume at 11:30. We
Thank you,
adjourn.
Chair.
Let's continue. Yes, Mr. Tsotsi. What is the answer?
Short, sharp, and quick. Chair, let me just reflect back, Chair. You may recall in previous testimonies that were given here by myself and others when we talked about the TNA matter. At this time, Eskom had entered into one of those TNA contracts. So what happened was this, and this normally happens when in the course of this TNA contract. Eskom took an opportunity in consultation with the TNA people who were running the contract to showcase the 49M program and other Eskom issues at this particular gathering. Now, you may be aware, Chair, that at some of these gatherings, what happens is that the ANC invites business people to take up spaces, to take up tables in an organized business environment, where business people are then able to interact with government officials who attend these functions, including members of the executive, where there is this networking that goes on. So essentially, because the ANC is the governing party, it is assumed that it's a networking opportunity for business people to network with the African National Congress ministers and other senior members of the organization. So it was from the perspective of the TNA contract and the opportunity to expose Eskom as part of the programs that Eskom had, including the 49M program, that management asked me to attend and speak on behalf of Eskom at this function. And in fact, I addressed the function dealing with specific issues that were problematic at the time for the ANC. The idea that we were advancing, and my understanding of what management was wanting to do, was to give Eskom the opportunity through my presentation at this meeting, at this dinner, and to profile the company and give the opportunity for us to reach our customers through the media that was provided by the SABC.
You say this particular dinner of January, I guess it must have been January 7, I don't know.
Yes.
2014, you say Eskom got onto
that the TNA contract was addressing, where there is a forum where someone from Eskom is able to participate and give a profile of
this was an ANC dinner. That's one thing, sure, isn't it?
It was an ANC dinner, yes.
Yeah, dinners. This was a dinner. And the other ones, if I recall correctly, at least those about which I've had evidence for the ANC to have a dinner the evening before the January 8
Yes.
statement or January 8 rally. So,
Yes.
so if you say it was a dinner, that seems to resonate with what I have been observing in the media over the years about the ANC.
Yes.
So it's likely to have been a dinner.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
So, Chair, I think if you view it from the perspective of how the TNA breakfasts themselves were being conducted, it would seem to me that this was a similar format, because the people who were predominantly present in this particular function were not necessarily ANC members. In fact, there was a lot of business people who,
Well, it would be ANC members and supporters, mainly. Yes. Yes.
so the idea then was, this was another forum where the TNA and 49M contract then had an opportunity to express itself in the same way that it was doing so at the breakfast.
During your term, I take it there would have been other ANC functions that Eskom may have sponsored, which might not necessarily have been connected with the TNA, isn't it? Like what is called buying tables or at functions or dinners or whatever.
I can't really say
can't
for
remember.
sure, Chairman.
That's the only one you can remember.
That's the one that I clearly remember.
Yes. But even that, I can understand private business, but I can't understand why Eskom would do that, because they are a state-owned entity. There is a minister that represents the government that they liaise with, and there is nothing they want from government other than lawful. I'm going to buy a table at that dinner because I want to meet the DGs, I want to meet the ministers, for whatever purpose. You have, as Eskom, access to the minister, all the time, to a minister who represents the government. You are a state-owned entity, so why do you want to spend money in order to be at that?
Chair,
at that dinner?
It wasn't about the networking with business in our case.
Yeah.
We were leveraging, the communication opportunity that we had with our customers via the SABC network to be able to put across whatever messages we wanted to put across because of the availability.
My difficulty for present purposes is doing it in a manner that quite clearly supports a political party. Did you ever do any such things in DA meetings, in UDM meetings, in Inkatha meetings, in Freedom Front meetings? Did you ever do any such? Did Eskom ever do that?
I don't know, Chair. I would not. I haven't heard of it. I hadn't heard of any.
It may be that there is justification that I just don't know, because it seems to be something that happens and nobody seems to make issue of, not just Eskom, I think other state-owned entities where they seem to spend money on political parties' functions like the ANC, but I don't think they do the same with any other political party.
Chair, I don't believe that there was any specific benefit to the ANC in this process. There certainly was not.
Well, of course, if you bought tables, I'm using bought in the way that they are used. That term is used. If you bought tables, you made the function possible without the ANC spending its own money. As
Yes, I would like to.
Be wrong.
Yes, I don't recall that there was anybody other than me from Eskom who was present. But I don't know.
Was the function not on the basis of so-called buying a table? I mean, from what one reads sometimes, these tables are bought for very large sums of money, which always gives me the impression that the food you are going to eat and everything you are going to is going to be much less than the money you pay. So the balance of the money goes to the ANC.
Yes. Yes, that is a common practice, yes.
Because as I recall, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, as I recall, even the ANC leaders, or some of them at least in the past, when they give out these invitations or talk about them, you as a company, and I'm talking now private sector, your benefit that you derive for paying such a large amount of money when it is said you are buying a table is that you are going to network with the ministers, with people, high-ranking officials of the party, of a political party, who happen to be also in government, who are ministers. That's, to me, that always sounds not right. Why should people spend money if they want to talk to a minister about something? Why shouldn't they ask for a meeting to meet with the minister and talk about without paying money?
Chair,
And this is not a minister acting as minister. This is now a minister acting as a leader in a political party.
Yes. From our perspective, Chairman, what we saw was a platform for us to reach our customers, which was on offer.
But why can't you reach your customers in another way without a political party?
We do, and we did.
Yes.
But on this occasion, I think the presence of the SABC was an advantage that we saw, because we would ordinarily be charged by the SABC for them to give us a platform. So there was that benefit that we recognized. But as I say, that was the thinking at the time.
Yeah, Mr. Selega, this was just a detour.
No, that's fine, Chair. Thank you. Yes, I thought I had left it to the end, but you brought it fast forward.
I'm terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry. Well, it just shows we didn't exchange notes. And we are not exchanging notes.
No, not at all. Yes, well, Mr. Tsotsi, this was indeed, as you write in that affidavit, a usual fundraising gala dinner. And this is for the ANC. You see that in paragraph 6.1.
Yes.
The ANC had its usual fundraising gala dinner. So the funds are being raised for none other but the ANC.
The point being, you as Eskom were helping the ANC raise funds.
That is not correct, Chair.
What is not correct?
I think the interpretation of what is written here is not correct. Let me correct it.
Yeah, what is the correct interpretation?
As I said, Eskom was not there for any purpose other than to exploit the platform that the SABC was to reach our customers. That was the basis upon which I was asked to go and present at that function. As far as I'm aware, there was no this TNA contract, and the purpose of the contract was to be able to facilitate the use of and create an understanding in our customer base of the use of electricity through the 49M program.
No,
so,
Mr. Tsotsi,
that
can't be. Are you not going to accept the proposition?
It is a fundraising event for the ANC, that's true.
Now, the ANC is not going to allow you to come and sit at the main table with the top six.
Is that the ANC could have received funding from the contractor, who were the TNA themselves. it could well be that the TNA could have contributed some money, some as its own contribution. And then at the time was that the
I have encroached on what you were planning to ask. I'm terribly sorry. It's just that some of these issues are quite important.
No, certainly, Chairperson. Not to be sorry at all. Chairperson, I think we should explore that aspect to its limits, and then we can go to where I wanted to go earlier. Mr. Tsotsi, well, you write further there in paragraph 6.1, after you mentioned the tops, you said the top ANC top 6 and 2 other older Gupta brothers, the table had name tags. So those who did not know one another were able to introduce themselves. This was the first and the only encounter I had with these Gupta brothers. I never got to see or talk to them thereafter. Now this is January 2014. Is that correct?
yes,
Yeah, that would be January 2014.
January 2014. The next paragraph, and I'm trying to understand that concluding statement in paragraph 1, vis-a-vis the next statement you make in 6.2. You say, I was requested by Mr. Tony Gupta to meet with him at their Saxon World residence on some 3 occasions, and once at their Sahara Computers offices in Midrand. Now my question is, was Mr. Tony Gupta one of the brothers you refer to in paragraph 6.1?
No, he said those two were Mr. Ajay Gupta and Mr. Atul Gupta. They are the 2 other
The
brothers.
2 older brothers.
Tony Gupta is another one. So it seems that what he means is, on the occasion of that dinner, he met the 2, namely
I see.
Atul Gupta and Ajay Gupta, but subsequently the person that he had interactions with was Tony Gupta.
I see. Thank you, Chairperson. You confirmed that, Mr. Tsotsi.
yes,
So, okay, 6.2 refers to a different person, a different occasion.
yes, a different person, yes.
Different person, different occasion. Having been requested as such, did you attend at their residence in Saxon World?
Yes,
And what gets to be discussed in a nutshell on this? I see you say some 3 occasions.
yes,
Let's take the first occasion, then go to the second, and then go to the third.
okay. The one occasion,
Sorry, can you recall when was that?
on this particular occasion, this was sometime in 2014. It could have been around sometime in the middle of the year.
2014.
2014, yes. Sometime in the middle of the year.
Okay, then you may proceed about what gets to be discussed in that meeting.
What had transpired is that there was a request from a company that wanted to supply gas to the Eskom open cycle gas turbines, which are based in the Western Cape, and the idea would be, once Eskom has converted those units, which were now currently firing with diesel, into what they should be, gas firing, then the idea would be to bring in gas into the Western Cape, get a contract with Eskom for the 2 units to supply gas, and use that as an anchor tenant to then get into the Western Cape's business, gas business. Now, evidently, Tony Gupta heard that there was such an opportunity. And I said to him, look, I don't know anything about that.
Did he call you? Or you met? Or
Yes, we were talking face to face. I'd met him at the Saxon World residence.
yes, did he call you to set up the meeting?
Yes,
And what was the venue of the meeting?
it was at Saxon World.
Or at
his
their
residence.
place?
Yes,
Yes, okay. And you say that would have been around mid-year 2014?
yes, Chairman.
Yes, okay. So he asked you to come and see him for a meeting, and you came. So he talked about this issue.
Yes, he wanted to find out if we can assist him with facilitating a contract with Eskom
Yes.
so that they can supply gas to Eskom.
Yes.
So when I then found out what was happening, I reverted back to him and
Well,
told him,
before you found out, just tell about the discussion. You are at the meeting now.
yes.
He puts this request. Tell me the discussion, how the meetings, how you responded and how the meeting ended.
Okay. As I said, he asked for the assistance for the supply of gas to the OCGTs, like I said. And I said, look, I don't know anything about that. And he, in fact, is the one who said that there is an opportunity for that business. So I said, look, I'm not aware of that. I can find out from Eskom what is happening in that regard. And it was a very brief discussion, really, to say, look, I don't know anything about it. I can come and find out and get back to him. I subsequently then inquired at Eskom, and what I was told was that there was a company which had raised the same discussion at Eskom, and they were then directed to speak to the Department of Energy, because the way that process is done is through an MOU, which MOU is signed with, not with Eskom, but with the Department of Energy. Then I conveyed to him that that is the response that Eskom gave me. So it's not only is it out of Eskom's hands, it is a matter that he would have to raise with the Department of Energy, let alone the fact that it looks as though someone had beaten them to that. So that was the one encounter which I had with him.
When you had to go back to him, was that by way of a telephone call? Or was there another
I think I
meeting?
called him, yes. I think I called him, Chairman. I don't
Yes.
recall going back to
Yes.
that. I think I just phoned him.
Yes. Was there any special reason why, when he wanted to meet with you, you agreed to go to his house or home, as opposed to him coming to you? He wanted a meeting with you. Why does he not come to you?
Chairman, I can't specifically say why I didn't ask him to come to my office. I don't recall that I'd asked him to come to my office.
Yes. Well, it's just strange that from the evidence I've had over the past 2 years, in terms of people who met with them, that mostly they got people to come to them rather than them going to people. General Nyanda gave evidence here and said that when they sent messages wanting a meeting with them, he insisted that they should do like everybody, come to his office. They must go through the normal processes and come and have a meeting in the department, and no meeting ever happened. It seems that they didn't want to do that, and he said, well, he was dropped from cabinet, but it looks like everybody just went to them whenever they wanted a meeting, and nobody said, well, you want to have a meeting with me, you come to my office. So that's why I'm asking you whether there was any reason why you went to him rather than him coming to you.
Yes.
You can't remember any particular discussion around the issue of where the two of you should meet.
Well, Chair, there was no discussion in the sense that there was no debate as to whether he should come to my office or me go to his place.
Yes.
Because I knew that the tendency for them is to ask, I'd known that the tendency for them is to ask that the meetings be held at their place.
Yes. Well, Mr. Temba Masego gave evidence to the effect that he had a meeting with Mr. Ajay Gupta in the second half of 2010, and effectively, Mr. Ajay Gupta was saying something along the lines, we call the ministers. If they don't cooperate, then we report them to the president, and he deals with them. So I'm wondering whether this whole idea that whenever they need to meet with people, they don't go to those people's places. The other people must come to them. They must come to their home.
Chair, it was common knowledge amongst the government officials and people who had reason to interact with them that they certainly have the attention of the president, and we're close enough to the president to threaten people with Baba, as they call him. They did the same to me at some point. So I suppose they felt that if they had that kind of leverage with the president, they could demand whatever they wanted to be done, and that be done, or else there might be consequences, so to speak.
Yes.
That was common knowledge.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Select.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mr. Tsotsi, a follow-up question to that is given that he was making a business proposition to Eskom, why did he seek a meeting with you, a chairperson of the board, non-executive, and not anybody else in operations at Eskom?
Chair, I got a very distinct impression that this guy, specifically Tony Gupta, not only had no understanding of processes, but he had no appreciation, and I think couldn't really care less. All his interest is the person who he perceives to be in a position of authority and a position of power to deliver whatever it is that he wanted delivered, was the person he would focus on. And the processes of approaching the organization through the operational and correct channels, he was not interested in that. So it didn't surprise me because he certainly had no regard for processes. Especially when we talk about the way they responded when, in fact, I was not able to assist them in specific instances.
Yes. Well, one has in mind, for instance, if you're talking about persons in authority, you have a CEO there. He's certainly one person in authority. He's the face of the company. So, why not him, but you? Did you ever ask yourself that question?
Well, I didn't really engage myself with that issue because I understood that they have this notion that they can operate with impunity at levels of government. And so engaging them in process-oriented discussion about who they should approach and who they should not approach was a useless exercise because they didn't believe in that, they didn't understand that, and they were not interested in dealing in that way. Of course, in my response to issues that they for example, I'll give you another example just to deal with your question. Chair, there was a time when the same person, Tony Gupta, had wanted a particular individual to be employed by Eskom in a position in procurement. There was a position on the establishment list of Eskom of a chief procurement officer. And he wanted me to assist him to get, for that person to get that position in the company.
Yes. Round about when was this? Was it still 2014?
This is 2014, yes.
Yes. So there was a vacancy for the position of Chief Procurement Officer at Eskom.
So he thought.
So he thought, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, he didn't even refer to it as a vacancy. He said there is a position.
Yes.
And he wanted that position for his candidate.
Yes.
So when I discovered...
Was he talking to you in a meeting or what?
It was once again one of those visits I had at...
Okay, was that the second meeting?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And if you estimate around about which month in 2014 would that second meeting have taken place?
Whoa, this... I know that
sometime during the second half of the year.
Probably the second half of the year, yes.
Yeah, okay, all right. Even if you can't remember the date,
Yes.
that's fine. So this time, how did that meeting come about? Did he call you and arrange another meeting for you to come and see him?
Yes, Chairman, he called me to arrange another meeting to come and see
Yes, okay. Then you went there.
Yes.
And the meeting took place at Saxon World.
Yes.
And he said, there is this position, I would like you to facilitate the appointment of this person to that position.
That's correct.
Yes. Are you able to tell the person's name that he wanted to be appointed to that position?
I don't recall the name, but I know that he mentioned that the person was at the time working for MTN.
That person was working for MTN?
Yes.
Yes, okay. What was your response to this request?
I said to him, look, I know nothing about that. I mean, I'm not in operations, so I would have to ask the people in operations if they can assist you. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, ordinarily, there would be an advert for that position, and that your candidate would have to apply like everybody else. I thought he was essentially looking for, what shall I call it? Some sort of support at the process where the candidate is now has applied and is being considered, is being evaluated. I thought that he was interested in that sort of support. Well, I discovered.
So what was his reaction to what you said, namely, I'd have to find out, but whether you can be assisted, but ordinarily there would have to have been an advert that went out and your candidate would have to apply like everybody. What was his reaction to that?
I don't remember specifically, Chairman.
Yes, yes.
But I was convinced that he was looking for me to pull strings for him, so to speak.
Yes.
But I suppose, not knowing what was actually the situation, he maybe didn't know what to say, because I said, look, I don't know the situation. I would have to find out what's going on.
So the meeting ended on the basis that you would find out about this position he was talking about and revert to him.
Yes, correct.
Yes, and then you went to find out.
Yes, and what I established was that not only was the position on the establishment list of the company, but the position was in fact not advertised.
But was it vacant?
It was not advertised.
It was vacant?
It was vacant, yes.
Oh, okay, but it had not been advertised?
It had not been advertised.
Yes, okay.
And that's what I told him. I said to him, look, the position not been advertised, and so there is no issue. You'd have to wait until the position gets advertised. I stand to be corrected here, Chairman, but I think I subsequently heard much later, after I'd left Eskom, that individual did in fact go and work for Eskom.
Or is that so?
That's what I understood.
Yes, yes. But you have no don't remember the particulars of his name and what position he ultimately occupied.
The position would have been Chief Commercial Officer.
Oh, from what you heard, he ultimately got that position.
That's what I ultimately heard, yes.
Yes. Well, it would be interesting to establish as a matter of certainty whether it is the same person that you had been told about by Mr. Gupta.
Yes.
And that is one. And two, whether he actually, it's true, he got this position that Mr. Gupta wanted him for. So I think if the legal team doesn't have that information, please, something must be done to just establish for sure what the position is. And I assume that you might not remember the name, but if you are told that it looks like that position was occupied, was filled by so-and-so, you might recall whether that was the name that you had been told, and whether that person came from MTN that would link up with your thinking.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Salem.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, Mr. Tsotsi, writing in your...
He was to tell us about the third meeting with Mr. Tony Gupta. He has told us, you have told us about two meetings. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about the third one.
Yes.
Chair, the third one has to do with the TNA contract. You recall, Chair, the last time I was here that we raised the issue of the irregular expenditure, which occurred at the instance of Colin Machila, who was at the time the acting chief executive at Eskom. This was now, I would say, around October. No, it was a little before October, just before Mr. Matuna came into the...
Yeah, Mr. Machila preceded Mr. Matuna, I think.
That's right, yes. And on this occasion, I met him at his sectional office. I'm sorry, his Sahara offices.
At the Sahara offices?
Yes, I was on my way to a meeting in Pretoria. And
So each time you met, you were the one to go to him.
Correct.
Okay.
Then at this meeting, he asked me what was the problem with the contract that Eskom had signed with them, the TNA. He hears that there is some problem to do with this contract. So I told him, I said, the contract has been entered into irregularly, and that there is an inquiry, in fact, a forensic audit to establish precisely what had happened and how to remedy that situation. So he said to me, look, you are the boss, well, you can make this thing go away. So once again, it reinforces the mindset that I spoke about earlier that they have in terms of the structure of the organization, how it works and processes and all of that stuff. So I told him that in response that, first of all, I'm not in operations, and secondly, even more importantly, this particular incident, the irregularity that has been picked up, of its own triggers a series of events which I would have no jurisdiction over. Such as you may be aware, the audit trail, and also the formality of reporting this incident, not only in the financials of the company, but also reporting it to the audit authorities. So in essence, I told him then that there's nothing I could do, or anybody else for that matter could do, to assist in this regard. This issue has got to take its course. And as I reported in the last time I was here, Chair, that for the first time I noticed that he was visibly angry, upset with my response. So that was one of the occasions.
You may continue.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Mr. Tsotsi, you've mentioned that they used the name Baba's enemies, the concept Baba's enemies. Let's look at paragraph 6.9 of your affidavit on page 6. You say that Attorney Gupta made no secret of their intention to influence public servants to assist them with their business interests. He easily spoke disparagingly of those who did not want to assist them and branded them as Baba's enemies, a reference to President Jacob Zuma. I pause there, Mr. Tsotsi, to go back to my question to you, which is, why were you the person approached, being an executive chairman of this entity, Eskom? And you said it's because you think they perceived you as being a person in authority, in a position of authority. Correct?
Yes.
And you have explained that you had these meetings with Attorney Gupta on 3 occasions at their residences, Saxonwold, and their offices at Sahara Computers. Why did you agree to going back the second time, the third time? Why didn't you rebuff them?
Chairman, this is an interesting question because you know, as I said earlier, that there was a well-known situation regarding them insofar as their relationship with the president. And I've heard of instances where people were supposedly threatened by them if they were not able to at least give them whatever assistance they felt that they needed, and that they would report them to the president, whom they referred to as Ubaba. And they seem to have this authority about them. And I think it is, I suppose, something that if one looks at what influence they are capable of exerting, then it's clear to me that responding to their requests and their needs, whatever it is that they want to have done, is something that would cause them to feel that a lack of such a response would be, in a way, once again, disrespecting Ubaba. So, you know, one operated with the thought that you were at the behest of people who, if you are not able to assist them, you are in fact going against the wishes, if I may put it that way.
You are going against the wishes of
the president.
The president, okay.
Yes, because
yes.
of the
yes. If you do anything that displeases them, you would feel that you are displeasing the president.
Essentially, that's
Yes.
what.
Yes.
So I felt that meeting them was not a critical issue. What was critical for me was whether I was in a position to subscribe to what it is that they wanted to do, and whether, in fact, it was within my purview or my authority to do so. That, to me, was really the critical issue.
Yeah. Well, I don't follow the reasoning, but is that how you thought about it at the time?
Yes.
Because in fact, you do have another meeting, according to you, on page 7 of the affidavit, paragraph 7.3. And again, on this occasion, as the chairperson has emphasized, it's not them coming to you, it's them calling you to themselves. And you write, if you go to page 7, please, paragraph 7.3, just to put context to that, it flows from your 2 preceding paragraphs, about which you say a day or 2 before the State of the Nation address of February 2015. 5 February 2015. That's in paragraph 7.1. You have an encounter with Minister Brown, which you tell about there. And paragraph 7.3, you say, on the same day, a day or 2 before the SONA State of the Nation address in Cape Town, Tony Gupta called and requested that we meet. He suggested that the meeting be at their residence in Constantia, to which I agreed. And this again goes back to my question, that you seem amenable to to complying with their requests. May I ask you this? Will it be a correct, rather, observation of your response given to the chairperson that you felt intimidated by them?
There is an element of intimidation, yes, that's true. There is an element of intimidation considering the fact that they have the relationship they had with the president.
I see.
What was the fear of what could happen to you if you displeased them and therefore displeased the president? Why did you have to fear anything about displeasing them? If you said, you want a meeting, come and see me in my office. And that's the one point. The second point is, maybe after the first meeting, you say, well, I met you at your venue the first time, now you come to me. Let's have a meeting in my office. What fear could you have had of what would happen to you if you said that and he didn't like that?
Chairman, I think it would be correct for me to think, considering what subsequently happened, to think that I would have incurred the displeasure of the president if I had, did not respond to them in the manner that I did. And I think what might have happened is that I might have either been reprimanded by the president or might have been asked to assist them when they want assistance.
Yeah.
Which I know had happened with, or supposedly had happened with one of the colleagues in government.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Tsotsi, let's see. Could the answer not lie in what you say Mr. Tony Gupta told you? Let's go back to that paragraph 7.3, which is the question the chairperson is asking. What did you fear would happen to you if you didn't comply? So you write there, he suggested that the meeting be at their residence in Constantia, to which I agreed. Then you go on. It turned out that the meeting was intended to tell me that I am not supportive of their business endeavors. He went on to say, Chairman, we are the ones who put you in this position, and we are the ones who give you out. Counter with the minister.
Even sit down. We spoke and she was already about to leave.
This was at her house.
That not only was she expressing an unhappiness with me, but also that she was basically writing me off. That's the impression I had.
This is January 2015.
Yes.
The new board at that stage had its induction, or you can't remember?
Yes, the board had its induction.
But it had not had its first meeting.
Yes.
And would it be correct to say, therefore, that as at the time that the minister said she had received complaints from board members that there wouldn't have been any grounds for the board members to have any complaints against you because you had not started working with them.
That was precisely my view, Chair, that there was no basis for them to have that attitude because I hadn't started working with them.
Yeah. In terms of the management of Eskom, would the CEO ordinarily communicate with the minister, or would he communicate with you and you would then communicate with the minister?
The way the communication was set up is the DG and the chief executive would be the ones who would communicate, and then I, as chairman, would communicate with the minister. That was the setup.
So it would ordinarily be out of order for the CEO to communicate directly with the minister on Eskom matters as opposed to communicating through you. Or is that not correct?
That is correct, Chair.
Yeah, there would have to be some exceptional situation for the CEO to communicate directly.
It would be under exceptional circumstances, that's correct.
Yes. Of course, if the CEO wanted to complain about you to the minister, one would understand not going through you. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. But as at that stage, the Eskom had a new CEO, that was Mr. Matona, who had started on the 1st of October.
Yes.
And if the position is that Mr. Matona had not conveyed to the minister any complaints about you, then if the minister got complaints from anybody else from management, that would be even stranger, because ordinarily anybody below the CEO, I imagine, has no business communicating directly with the minister. Because even the CEO has got to go through you, but we understand that if he has complaints about you that he wants to convey to the minister, that he might not go through you in that case.
Chair, as it turns out, at the time when the minister called me to come and see her, I was in fact with Mr. Matuna in a meeting of the portfolio committee.
Yes.
Members. We were having a sort of a workshop.
So you left that meeting to go and see
I left that meeting to go and see the minister.
And left him in the meeting, Mr. Matona.
That's correct. I then went back to that meeting.
Yes.
And of course, I seized the opportunity to ask Mr. Matuna what's going on.
Yeah.
And he knew nothing about that.
He had never complained.
Never complained to the minister.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Tsotsi, let's go to, I think what you were relating in regard to your encounter with the minister can be found in paragraph 7.1 of your affidavit, page 6.
Yes.
And you say you had a conversation. She has summoned you to her office. And the second sentence is, the substance of our conversation was as follows. Chairman, I have received complaints from management and board members that you are interfering in management. Please refrain from doing so.
This came from.
Do that. Just piece it together.
Okay. The way I reasoned this is that.
Switch on your mic. Your mic is off. Yeah.
Sorry. There is a time when I received a letter from a company called Sumitomo when I was chairman at Eskom.
A company called,
In around the beginning of Minister Brown's term, I think.
that would have been
Around
around second half of
June,
2014.
July, somewhere around there.
2014,
2014.
yes.
And Sumitomo had, when I said there's this letter from Sumitomo, and the person
That was
who
Mr.
is,
Machila at that time,
it
the
was,
CEO.
it was,
Or was it Mr. Matona already?
I can't remember whether it was Brian Damas or it was Mr. Matuna.
Yes,
I
but
have to-
whoever was the CEO or acting CEO at the time.
Yes. Then I asked the legal people who were in my office. I told them this is what has transpired. I have asked the organization through the chief executive to give me a response. So got to understand this simply because of the incident that took place. Now, the minister did not specifically address this particular issue with me.
She didn't give you particular talking about in saying were effectively threatening you with dismissal if you didn't do one. Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Selega. I see we are at 2 minutes to 1, but you might want
Let
to...
me canvass this
Yeah.
point with
Yeah.
Mr. Tsotsi. Mr. Tsotsi, the minister, or former minister, Len Brown, has provided the commission with an affidavit after being furnished with your affidavit. And she speaks specifically about this issue in a paragraph in her, or certain paragraphs in her affidavit. It's in your bundle, and that's on page, the paragraphs I want to refer to are on page 445.
Is that 445?
445, correction. You will see that
Yes.
the beginning of this affidavit is on page 434, and it's titled Supplementary Affidavit of Miss Lynette Brown. And if you go to page 445, starting at paragraph 100, she writes, the heading is, My exchange with Zola Tsotsi in his interference with management matters. Question 6 of Annexure SA2 reproduces, I think it should read, an extract attributed to Mr. Zola Tsotsi about a conversation I allegedly had with him. For ease of reference, I restate the passage. And she does, which is what we've read a day or two before the SONA of February 2015. So I will not read that passage, you've seen it from your affidavit. Then paragraph 101, she says, the only related conversation I remember having with Mr. Zola Tsotsi related to his interference with management or operational issues as opposed to directorate issues. In his oral testimony before the commission, he confirms this. Referring to me, he says, way up on the minister, had, well, in this instance, she was not happy about the fact that I was said to be interfering with management. Now, you will deal with that in your response, Mr. Tsotsi. 102, paragraph 102, There have been complaints about Mr. Zola Tsotsi, both from the executives and the directorate. What comes to mind in particular was that one of the executives came to see me in person complaining about Mr. Tsotsi's interference with the operational issues. Producing a letter allegedly penned by Mr. Tsotsi to a Japanese company about buying oil or some other fuel, I decided I had to intervene, she says. This is why I invited Mr. Tsotsi, reprimanded him, and directed him to refrain from interfering with management. As to the verbatim exchange, I cannot recall. I do recall that the meeting was tense. The exchange could have been intemperate. Now, I'm pointing you to this because you were saying she didn't give you the specifics in regard to the alleged interferences. Is it as a matter, your recollection, is it as a matter of fact that she didn't tell you any specific? Or could you have forgotten that she might have told you? This specific incident she's referring to here.
Chairman, I'm absolutely certain. She did not tell me the incident. But deep down I knew what was going on.
Yes.
Because of what I described just now.
Yes.
And the irony of it is that the person who raised the complaint to her is the very author of that letter, which I then was cleared to send to Sumitomo. So I'm just baffled.
Yeah.
So last question before we take the adjournment. Who did you say was the author of the letter?
Ms. Machela Koko, who in his capacity as the executive for commercial and technology. He was at the time the executive for commercial and technology. It was in his area that this matter was fixed.
Chairperson, it might be an opportune time. I suppose we could finalize the point after the agenda.
Yes, no, that's fine. We'll have to take the lunch adjournment. We will resume at 2:05.
Thank you, Chairperson.
We adjourn.
Where's my...